With trembling hands, the mother placed a note, barely legible, beside her baby, whispering, "I'm sorry, my child. Forgive me." And with that, she disappeared into the darkness, leaving behind a fragile life. A doctor rescues a homeless woman from the streets, only to uncover a hidden bond that binds them in ways they never expected. It was a rainy night, cold and unforgiving, the kind of night where even the street dogs took shelter. And in the shadows of a narrow alleyway near the back door of a hospital, something unimaginable happened. A young mother, her face shadowed by the hood of a worn out coat, stood beside a dumpster. In her arms, she held a tiny bundle wrapped in old frayed cloth. She looked at the hospital, her eyes heavy with sorrow, with regret, yet her feet stayed rooted to the spot. It was as if an invisible chain tied her there, caught between her love for her child and the desperation that consumed her soul. Her arms shook as she slowly lowered the child, placing her in the cold embrace of the dumpster. With trembling hands, the mother placed a note, barely legible, beside her baby, whispering, "I'm sorry, my child. Forgive me." And with that, she disappeared into the darkness, leaving behind a fragile life, one that would one day uncover the truths in a way no one could foresee. As fate would have it, that very night, an old janitor who worked long hours in the hospital to provide for his grandchildren was on his way to empty the trash. He heard the faint cry, a sound so fragile it could have been mistaken for the rustle of leaves. But he knew that sound. Slowly he walked over to the dumpster, peering inside with cautious eyes, whispering to himself, "Could it be? No, not here, not tonight." He carefully lifted the tiny baby, whose cries softened at the warmth of his touch. The janitor rushed into the hospital, his heart pounding, shouting for help. The doctors and nurses gathered around, their faces filled with awe and sadness as they looked at the baby girl. They named her Asantewa after a legendary warrior queen, as if by naming her they could gift her strength and courage. A miracle baby, left to fend for herself, now had a chance at life. Soon after, a kind middle class family took her in as their own. Asantewa grew up knowing love, surrounded by people who cherished her and treated her like their very own. She was bright, inquisitive, and compassionate, a child with a deep empathy that made her stand out. She felt a pull to help others, especially those in need. And this, my friends, would soon become her life's purpose. Through years of study and determination, Asantewa rose through her education, her academic achievements outshining those of her peers. She studied medicine, specializing in geriatrics, the care of the elderly. She believed that everyone deserved dignity, especially in their final years. With every patient she treated, with every family she comforted, Asantewa brought a little more light into the world. People began to know her as the compassionate doctor, a healer with a heart as big as the city itself. But as the wise say, life is full of circles. Sometimes what we leave behind finds a way of coming back, even when we least expect it. Years later, on another rainy night, much like the one she was abandoned, Asantewa finished a late shift at the hospital. She was tired, her mind on her work, and eager to go home. But as she stepped out into the cold, wet air, something caught her attention. There, under the hospital's overhang, an elderly woman sat shivering, soaked to the bone, her clothes clinging to her thin frame. She had a worn, hollow look about her, like someone who had carried a heavy burden for far too long. Asantewa felt her heart stir, an ache for this woman she had never met. Without a second thought, she walked over and speaks to the old woman kindly. Ma'am, you're freezing. Please come inside. Let me help you. The woman's eyes met hers, and for a moment it was as if a spark passed between them, something ancient and unexplainable. But Asantewa brushed it off as compassion, guiding the woman inside, wrapping her in a warm blanket, and offering her something hot to drink. That night, Asantewa invited the woman to stay with her. She couldn't bear the thought of leaving her out in the rain. She helped her settle on the couch, bringing her food and watching as the woman ate in silence. In the quiet of the night, as the rain continued to fall outside, the woman began to speak, her voice barely more than a whisper. I was young once. I had dreams, a life, but the world, it it can take everything away in the blink of an eye. Asantewa listened, feeling a strange pull towards the woman's words, like a story she had always known, yet had never heard. The woman spoke of hardships, of a child she had left behind, of years of regret and sorrow that had haunted her ever since. As the woman shared her story, a strange realization began to take shape in Asantewa's mind, a faint, flickering idea that grew with every word the woman spoke. It was something impossible, unthinkable, yet undeniable. Over the next few days, the woman stayed with Asantewa, and every day, bits and pieces of her life would spill out, memories, confessions, regrets. She spoke of a tiny baby she had abandoned, a decision that had haunted her every waking moment. One evening, Asantewa sat across from her, searching the woman's face, the lines of her sorrow and despair. There was something about her features, something so familiar it sent a chill through Asantewa's very bones. Slowly, almost painfully, she began to piece together the fragments of the woman's story with her own past, realizing that the woman before her was connected to her in ways she could never have foreseen. But Asantewa kept her suspicions to herself, waiting, watching. She needed to be sure. She needed to hear it from the woman's own lips. And as the days passed, the truth loomed closer, an inevitable revelation that would shake both their worlds. Over the next few nights, Asantewa struggled with her suspicions. Each time she looked at the old woman, a wave of emotions washed over her, compassion, curiosity, and something that lay deep beneath the surface, a feeling she couldn't quite name. She listened as the woman shared more memories of her youth, piecing together a life marked by struggle and heartbreak. One night, as the rain tapped against the windows, the woman grew quiet, her gaze distant, almost as if she could see the past itself through the haze of memories. I remember the night I left her. It was a night like this, so cold. I didn't have a choice. I thought, I thought maybe, just maybe, someone would find her and give her a better life than I ever could. Asantewa's heart tightened at the words. She tried to steady herself, her breath shallow. In that moment, Asantewa felt the truth drawing closer, like a wave about to crash, one she could neither outrun nor prepare for. She wanted to scream, to ask the woman, was it me? Am I the child you left? But fear held her back. Fear of the truth, fear of the pain that might follow. The following morning, Asantewa awoke to find the woman sitting by the window, watching the world outside with tired eyes. She seemed smaller, fragile, her hands resting on her lap like delicate withered branches. Summoning all her courage, Asantewa walked over and sat beside her, the unspoken question heavy on her lips. Her voice trembled as she spoke. Do you do you ever wonder about the child you left? If she's out there, alive? The old woman sighs, her voice heavy with regret. Every day, I wonder if she hates me, if she even remembers me, or if she's been lucky enough to forget. Asantewa's voice softened, almost as a whisper. What if, what if she never forgot? What if she knew who you were? The woman looked up startled, her face etched with pain and confusion. I don't understand. Why are you asking me this? For a moment, the air between them felt like a thin glass wall, fragile and full of cracks. One more word and it might shatter. Asantewa could no longer hold back. The moment had come, and she knew there was no turning back. Her heart pounded as she held the woman's gaze, her voice barely audible. Because I think I might be her. I think you're my mother. A stunned silence fell between them, heavy and unbreakable. No, no, it can't be. How could it? How could it be? She reached out a trembling hand, touching Asantewa's face, as if looking for a trace, a resemblance, something that could confirm this impossible truth. Tears filled her eyes as she began to see the faint but unmistakable traces, the curve of her cheek, the shape of her nose, mirrored in her own reflection. Oh, my child, my child! I thought I had lost you forever, cried the old woman. They stared at each other, both in shock, both unsure whether to embrace or turn away. The truth sat between them, raw and unguarded, opening old wounds neither of them knew how to heal. Asantewa felt a storm of emotions, the joy of finding her mother and the pain of a lifetime of questions, the sorrow of abandonment mixed with the relief of finally knowing. The old woman choking on her words. I was young, so young, and scared. I had nothing, no family, no home. I thought I was saving you by letting you go. I thought you'd be better off, that someone would give you the life I never could. I grew up loved, yes, but there was always a part of me that felt lost, abandoned. I never understood why, until now. Asantewa voice trembling. The old woman buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. I've regretted it every day, every single day. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, and I won't ask for it. But just know, I've loved you in my own broken way, from afar, in my dreams and in my nightmares. Asantewa felt her anger soften, her heart opening in a way she hadn't expected. That night, as the rain continued to fall, mother and daughter sat together, sharing stories, filling in the pieces of their lives that had been missing for so long. The hours passed like moments, their bond slowly knitting together like threads that had been waiting to be woven. The woman told stories of her youth, of the dreams she once had, the hardships she faced, and the regret that had haunted her every day. And Asantewa shared her own story, her childhood, her passion for medicine, and the love she had found along the way. The next few days were filled with moments both painful and precious. They laughed, cried, and argued, navigating the rocky path of rebuilding a relationship that had started with so much pain. One evening, as they sat together in silence, Asantewa spoke with a voice full of conviction. You don't have to live on the streets anymore, Ma. You can stay with me. Let's build something new together. Are you sure? After all I've done, all the hurt I caused. The old woman hesitated. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this. We found each other for a reason. Let's make it worth something. The woman nodded, tears filling her eyes, unable to believe the kindness and forgiveness that her daughter offered so freely. As the days turned to weeks, the woman settled into a life of warmth and safety. She grew stronger, her face softening, her spirit lifting as she found joy in simple things: a warm bed, a cup of tea, and most of all, the love of her daughter. Together, they began the long process of healing old wounds, rediscovering the bond that had once been severed. Asantewa taught her mother the wonders of modern life, while her mother shared stories of their ancestors, old folk tales that wove the past with the present, binding them together in ways words alone could not. The two spent countless nights sitting by the fire, sharing their fears, hopes, and dreams, rebuilding a family that had been broken but not destroyed. One day, Asantewa suggested they return to the place where it all began, the hospital. She wanted her mother to see where their lives had taken different paths and to face the pain they both carried. They walked through the hospital corridors, hand in hand, as Asantewa pointed out the places she knew so well. She led her mother to the alleyway where the janitor had found her all those years ago, now lined with plants and lights, no longer a place of darkness and sorrow. It's hard to believe that such a small, fragile thing could survive here and grow into someone as strong as you. The old woman's voice filled with wonder and regret. And yet here we are. The past is behind us, but it brought us together in the end. They stood in silence, feeling the weight of their journey, the pain, the forgiveness, and the healing that had brought them to this moment. From that day on, the two began to forge a new path, one filled with love, understanding, and hope for the future. They knew there would be challenges ahead, but they also knew they could face them together. Mother and daughter shared more than just blood now. They shared memories, dreams, and a bond that nothing could sever. And as they walked back from the hospital that day, hand in hand, they felt like they had finally come home. The months passed like gentle seasons, and with every new day, Asantewa and her mother grew closer, their lives entwining in beautiful, unexpected ways. Together, they created a home filled with laughter, forgiveness, and the shared understanding that comes only from facing life's darkest moments and finding light again. Asantewa watched as her mother's face softened, her burdens lifted. The streets, once her only shelter, were now just a distant memory. For the first time in years, the woman found peace, not just in the warmth of her daughter's care, but in the acceptance of her own past. One day, as they sat together on the front steps, watching the sun set over the city, Asantewa turned to her mother, a smile lighting her face. Ma, I know our journey together has been long and hard, but I want you to know that you're my family, and I couldn't be more grateful for the chance we've had to heal together. Her mother squeezed her hand, her voice breaking with emotion. You've given me more than I ever deserved. I'm proud of you, Asantewa, proud of the person you've become, and maybe, just maybe, I can finally forgive myself too. They shared a quiet, peaceful moment, feeling the weight of their past slip away, leaving only the warmth of the present. With her mother by her side, Asantewa felt a renewed purpose. Inspired by her mother's journey and the countless others who struggled without shelter, she began working on a project close to her heart, opening a shelter for the homeless and destitute. She wanted to offer not only physical shelter, but also hope, compassion, and a place for people to rebuild their lives, just as she and her mother had done. As the shelter opened its doors, Asantewa and her mother stood together, welcoming those in need, each person a reminder of the resilience of the human spirit. In the end, Asantewa's story teaches us that forgiveness has the power to mend even the deepest wounds. It shows us that life often comes full circle, offering second chances to those who are brave enough to seek them. Love, compassion, and forgiveness can turn even the darkest past into a source of healing and strength. No one is beyond redemption and no one is beyond love. Sometimes all it takes is a single act of kindness, a willingness to look beyond the hurt, to uncover a bond stronger than blood, a bond rooted in forgiveness and understanding. With her mother beside her and the shelter thriving, Asantewa felt her peace she'd never known. She had found her family, her purpose, and herself. And as the city lights flickered in the distance, she knew that this was only the beginning of a new life filled with hope, love, and endless possibilities. Asantewa and her mother shared a final embrace, the kind of embrace that spoke of healing, of peace, and of a journey completed. Thank you for joining us on this heartfelt journey of forgiveness, redemption, and love. Asantewa's story reminds us that even in life's darkest moments, there's a glimmer of hope and the chance to rewrite our future. No matter where we come from, no matter the mistakes we've made, love and forgiveness have the power to heal and transform. If this story touched you, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales of resilience and hope. And remember, sometimes a single act of kindness can change a life, maybe even your own. Thank you for watching, and may you carry Asantewa's story with you as a reminder of the strength in compassion and the beauty in second chances. The end. Remember, forgiveness is the key to peace.